And what is up, everybody? All right. For those of you who don't know, I am a very hardcore conservative. However, on my most of my rants and reviews, I try my best not to be political. I mean, if you see all the videos that I've posted, there's very, very little stuff talking about, my religious beliefs as well as, where I stand politically. However, I post a lot of stuff on my personal Facebook page. I'm not very, I'm not subtle about any of that stuff at all. However, one of the people that I post up a lot about is Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder, I'm a Canadian, born in Canada. He's an American citizen. I believe his studio's in Texas, and he takes a very leftist approach at being right wing. With the extremes that a lot of leftists will take, these leftist media will take, especially comedians will do. They're just absolutely heartless in the stuff that they say towards conservatives. He takes that same approach to leftists, and I truly appreciate it to have something like that on our side. It's very funny. Problem is, this past week he finally came up with something that I don't necessarily agree with, and it couldn't just the first one is he kind of let slide, but then after the second one is like, oh, okay, I gotta say something. First off, he goes off on basically debunking 3 of the biggest myths about Bruce Lee. Totally understandable, even back when he had first died, they came up with these absolutely bogus, just so bogus documentaries of people pretending to have known Bruce Lee, this, that, the other. And I made the mistake of buying one of them because I was under the impression it was real. I didn't realize they did this Fist of Fear, Touch of Death bogus documentary having to take place with and I forget the name of the kickboxer who won the world title in Madison Square Garden. At this point, it was just so bogus. They had Ron Van Cleef. They had just they even dubbed over footage of an old movie that Bruce Lee did when he was 17 years old in Hong Kong. A dramatic, because he was a former child actor. But Crowder, everything that Crowder said was true, but then the extremes that he took it to afterwards was very, very disrespectful. I mean, I understand you're debunking the myth, mind you. Bruce Lee said it himself in a live interview. He didn't write it down. He actually said this to he said, "If I tell you I'm good, I'm boasting. You think I was boasting. If I said I was no good, I was lying." So Bruce Lee never said that he was anything that he wasn't. Okay, the demonstrations that he did, he was invited by Ed Parker. Ed Parker, one of the most influential martial arts masters within the United States, if not the world, had him come and do the. It's not like he decided to hold this stuff himself. Ed Parker invited him to show what he was capable of. And the video that he was, I forget the guy's name, but they said, oh yeah, the video of Bruce, actual sparring. They're like, oh yeah, that was actually one of Bruce's students. It's like, oh yeah, all the sparring he does was with his students. Mind you, that student was actually one of the founding masters of Kaju Kembo. If not the master of Kaju Kembo, who had, when the Bruce, just like Danny Inosanto. Danny Inosanto, master of Philippine martial arts, meets Bruce Lee, wants to know what, took a different approach to it. It was the same thing with this guy. Chuck, granted, guys like Joe Louis and Chuck Norris, Bob Wall, all these men were already world champions before they met Bruce Lee, but then they started training with Bruce Lee and they got better. that's actually documented. And Bruce Lee didn't really compete because he didn't see the need for it, because to him it wasn't a real fight. They stressed that so much, it wasn't a real fight. And that is somewhat understandable. Okay, the Machado brothers, they're not world champions at anything. I don't, you know, like uh, even a Henry Gracie, uh, doesn't really do competitions or anything like that, and his jujitsu is street applicable. So all this extra sketches and everything that he did, that was very uncalled for, very disrespectful. And I just commented basically, it's like, I believe, it was like, yes, I understand that I understand that these three are myths. I understand that these things that everybody says is not true. However, you were very disrespectful in how you brought it out. Then comes because Pro Wrestling International finally did, like, the number pro wrestler of the year is Okada from in New Japan, their current heavyweight champion. Then he basically goes off to say how pretty much wrestling is fake, and like, people are stupid for watching it, and then giving them no credibility because because it's not a real fight. Here's the problem with that. I want to say, like wrestling, if anything, what was the first form of pro wrestling was like the first form of professional mixed martial arts, because long before they started scripting it, when it was just catch as catch can wrestling, the old carnival style wrestling. That's pretty much what it was. It was MMA, because everything was allowed. Just old Greek pancration, like he so mentioned in his Bruce, his debunking Bruce Lee. Then the first organized MMA organization was Shuto, which was started by a Japanese pro wrestler who was basically tired of watching, having these determined outcomes in matches. Why don't you just? It's like, why don't they just have them fight for real? From that came Pancrase, and Pancrase, just about every single one of the Japanese fighters were pro wrestlers. Masakatsu Funaki was a pro wrestler. New Japan Pro Wrestling's current never openweight champion, Minoru Suzuki, won the King of Pancrase from Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock was a pro wrestler before he started doing Pancrase. Kazushi Sakuraba lied about his weight class, lied about how much he weighed, just so he could compete in the Ultimate Japan heavyweight tournament, and he won. That brought the credibility of Japanese pro wrestling. Fujita, was a pro wrestler, and pro wrestling champion, mixed martial arts champion as well. Josh Barnett was a pro wrestler before winning King of Pancrase, before winning the UFC heavyweight championship. Pro wrestling, I've said this before. Pro wrestling is scripted, it's choreographed, it's not fake. And especially Japanese pro wrestlers, oh my God, the technique and the showmanship that these guys do, leaps and bounds better than anything WWE could put out right now. And these guys, a lot of them, current WWE superstar Shinsuke Nakamura, he's fought mixed martial arts before. Yuji Nagata, their owner. He's fought in Pride. Even Alberto Del Rio, now Alberto El Patron, as Dos Caras Jr. I don't know how many different MMA fights he had. He's actually fought in Pride. But granted, he did lose both of those fights, but he actually had a pretty decent MMA record because on top of that, he was also on the Mexico's Olympic wrestling team. So the man's an Olympian. I don't know how, and even back to Shinsuke Nakamura was champion amateur wrestler, black belt in karate, and I believe I think he might have also competed in kickboxing as well. So to just say that, oh yeah, wrestling is fake, to try to take away credibility with them as fighters. Sorry, Mr. Crowder, I'm sorry, I do not agree with that. For the first time since I've been watching you, you said something that I honest to God can't agree with. And if I understand you probably caught a lot of flack for the Bruce Lee for the Bruce Lee thing, but I want to feel like you caught it for all the wrong reasons, because yes, like I said, everything you said was true, but it was very disrespectful how you said it, how you did it. Same thing with same thing with pro wrestling. I understand it's fake. Very disrespectful how you go about it. I'm done talking. You guys have a good night.